Three, two, one. Hey y'all, welcome to the Alliance with Andrew Hayes. It's Sunday, and winter might be over. That's the biggest news we got right here in Southwest Oklahoma. We are uh, right at. I think we might be beyond it. 30 days without rain. Uh, it's rough, and we are in D1 from what I was able to look at on the internet. I was looking at that last night because now we have the temperature. We need the moisture. So uh, yeah, we need some moisture to make things grow. So be praying for that. Yesterday I went to the Comanche County Republican convention, and J.R. Warren is the new he's the new chairman for the county party. Uh, Lots of good people were elected. I think his name is Chris Greening, is the state committee chairman. There's another lady that's no, I'm sorry, to the state committee. They're on the state committee, and I ran for that. There were 4 people that ran. I'm happy that Chris got it. Uh, I think he'll do good. We had some interesting discussion yesterday. Uh, Different rule changes, proposals for rule changes, and um, resolutions. Which, just as an aside, I just don't understand the resolutions. They don't do a doggone thing. If we had one resolution a year, it might actually mean something. But the party statewide comes up with 37 um, resolutions, or even more than that, and it's nobody even looks at it. The platform is a little bit different. The platform is a communication to the public, what the Republican Party stands for. Uh, it's also uh, really an expectation of what our candidates will run on. That we want people to run on these things, and we want to be pro-life, and we want to be pro-Second Amendment. So some of the things that I got added on, which I don't have a copy, unfortunately. Maybe I do. I do. How about that? So I really like this. This is one I'm very fond of, which I'm sure the platform committee will tweak it a little bit, and that's fine. But it says, we believe that the changes made in technology and the development of the market since statehood have made it possible for the free market to educate the children of Oklahoma better, to a higher standard, more economically, and more customizably to each child and family, while better compensating talented teachers. We understand that this cannot be done immediately, but we look forward to the time when the state constitution can be amended, and when the state of Oklahoma will no longer crowd out and compete with the private education of children. Um, and so we're signaling that we prefer free markets over socialism. That we would rather have uh, homeschooling and private schools than government funded schools, government ran schools. That was big. Um, they passed. They passed. I proposed it. They passed it. We support abolishing the income tax entirely, replacing it with a revenue generating tariff of 10% on all goods, and that this rate should neither be increased nor decreased. Um, the idea of these protective tariffs where we set a tariff at 200% or even 35%. Uh, those are prohibitory. Those are protectionist. You don't put those on maple syrup that we can't produce in the United States. You don't put it on avocados that we can't really produce in the United States. You put it on, um, I know there's a couple avocado farms in California, but by and large, avocados come from Mexico. So you don't put a tariff if your goal is to protect American industry or farming. You don't put that tariff on avocados. You put it on beef. You put it on cattle, and that prevents the Mexican uh, beef producer from coming in and competing with the American beef producer. Um, that's I didn't mean to get into this, but a tariff on Mexican beef, uh, politically, I'm against it. I think it's bad for the consumer, um, but I'm not going to cry. I got a hole in my shirt there. It comes from barbed wire fence, but uh, man, I'm not going to cry if they put a tariff on Mexican beef or Mexican cattle. Um, uh, I won't lose any sleep, but I will stand up and say it's not right. It's wrong. We shouldn't do it. And the other side to it is that if a tariff is put on the foreign good that's so high, nobody will buy that good. It'll be too expensive. An import ratio of 100% on Mexican beef would would make it too expensive relative to American beef. Uh, so nobody's going to buy it. That means that nobody is going to pay the tariff. I'll run through that again real quick. The person importing it, the company from Mexico that offloads the beef at the border, they pay the tariff. That good is then passed on to the grocery store, and the grocery store buys it. Now, they have to mark it up because the Mexicans are going to take that loss, so they pass the cost on to the grocery store. The grocery store passes it on to you. It might get paid one time, but when that grocery store realizes, hey, nobody's buying this stuff because it's too high, they won't order anymore. So you get a one-time payment on that pound of beef, and they're not going to bring in anymore, or I don't know, ton of beef, whatever it is. Um, when the grocery store realizes that the market doesn't want it for that price, they won't order anymore. The Mexicans won't pay the tariff anymore. So when you have a super high tariff, nobody pays the tariff. They just don't send the product in. And of course, unless avocados, and this is where you get into the elasticity or the responsiveness of the market, you know what? Avocados are really popular. So if you put 100% tariff on avocados, they go from $2 to $4 a pound or a piece or whatever it is. Yeah, we might still import those because we don't have any, theoretically. Imagine a product that we don't produce at all or that we produce very little of, like avocados. Uh, when they send those in, well, we don't have anything to compete with it. So, yes, that can generate a little bit of revenue, but it hurts the consumer, and the consumer's paying for it. So I got that passed. This was what I led off with. This was the most contentious and the most important. Oh well, okay. Let me skip to this one real quick. Um, in Texas v. White, and I think it was 1868, after the war, the Supreme Court ruled. Um, well, it's hard to say. I'm gonna have to link to a Brian McClanahan episode where he gets into the weeds and he explains it a lot better than I can. I'm still not there. But the upshot is that Texas v. White makes it clear that the states are in the union at the pleasure of the other states. And what that means is that a simple vote of the House and a simple vote of the Senate, and Congress can kick out a state. And so I opened up with talking about the Trump victory last November, last fall, and talked about how it was an unprecedented landslide. It would have been 8% of the popular vote if California wasn't in the Union. That's how badly California skews left. And so I ran a platform that California should be voted out of the Union, um, and that passed. And I was really kind of surprised. This other one, um, and I think this one took the most time. There wasn't a lot of debate, really. There were questions, but there wasn't a lot of debate. Um, but it says we oppose. Okay, so this is what the platform reads right now. It reads, we oppose the national popular vote, interstate compact, and any other scheme to abolish or distort the procedures of the Electoral College. I propose that we add in reasoning. And and really at the end of the day, that was the biggest part, because it's like this is a communication not just to the legislators, but a communication to the public of what we're about in the state. Um, and so we need to articulate why. Um, I think we should go through and articulate that to some degree on all of our issues. Um, but the reason why is because we, and this is what I added in, because we are a union of sovereign states, not a nation. Maybe that's interesting. Because we are a union of sovereign states. Uh, full stop. Um, the the implication is that we are not a single nation, um, and um, yeah, I think that especially with the young people, there's a whole lot of people. By young people, I mean people my age, people in their 40s. They don't understand the Electoral College. They look around the world, and France has a popular vote, and Denmark has a popular vote. In Ukraine, whenever they decide to do an election, they will have a popular vote for their president. Um, the United States has an Electoral College, and I made a Facebook post about this um, last night. That I said that the Electoral College doesn't make sense. Every other country has a popular vote, and why don't we have one? And the reason is, and then I answer the question. The reason is because we're not like every other country. We're a union of sovereign states. If we're not a union of sovereign states, then we should have a popular vote, and that be it. Um, and that's lost. I'll tell you one more. It ties in to something I was really thinking about. Um, there was a proposal to uh, outlaw humanure. Okay, so if you don't know, humanure is a poor farmer. Uh, he wants to fertilize the field, and by the way, first things first, it's already illegal to use humanure on a crop that's intended for human consumption. So Not all crops are meant for human consumption. Cotton isn't meant for human consumption, although I think that's a bit of a red herring to throw out because cotton farmer, they got the money and they can afford the fertilizer. Uh, they can afford to pay out $700 or $800 an acre, or I'm sorry, $700 or $800 a ton um, for their fertilizer. Um, I think it costs like at $500 an acre, it's $25 or 500. I'm sorry, at $500 a ton, that comes out to $25 an acre to fertilize, uh, and that's that's a lot. That's a lot. I'm just going to leave it there. I don't want to. I don't want my crop insurance guy to see this and get in trouble or anything. But I will say I don't use human manure. Um, but there's other crops that aren't for human consumption. There's uh, BL Kozad brought up forestry. You don't eat wood. Um, hay isn't consumed by humans. Uh, Wheat isn't consumed by humans. That is, if it's cut for hay or if it's grazed out. Um, and all right, so but if you're growing some of that stuff, hay or something like that, you can go to the waste treatment plant and they process the human waste. They cook it, I think, at 122 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm not sure for how long, but that they do that to kill all the bacteria, all the viruses, all the pathogens. Um, Really, frankly, for the sake of the farmer that's using it, I think. Um, and then he'll take it out and he'll put down 100 pounds to the acre, um, and he'll knife it in. That's the proper way to do it. You 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 have an implement that has a hose and you feed it through there and you plow it in or disc it in. Either way, but it's worked underneath the soil and yeah. So there's people that want to make that illegal, um, and I went ahead and stood up to argue against it. And the funny thing is I don't know that I'm 100% against it. Um, I just think it's too soon. And uh, the most interesting thing that I learned yesterday, um, there's two things. One fella told me, and you know I know this, that the the vast majority of people need things to be condensed. So make the package as small as you can. Um, get your point across. You know, just uh, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them, and that's it. Um, which sounds great unless you get into a more technical field like economics or um, aviation, or you're talking about the Coriolis effect or something crazy like that. But um, there's that. Then the other thing that I learned yesterday was, oh well, to that point, first of all, I kind of understood that, and I went from writing, 4 or 5 pages to writing 3 or 4 pages, and the guy told me that yesterday. And it's like, all right, well, I guess I have to figure out how to condense that 3 pages into 3 paragraphs. Go figure. But I'll just like going off on a short tangent here. It's that lack, and this is a it's a criticism of me that I don't do that, but it's a criticism of society that we have to do that because the left, and it's why the left is winning. the left can make an argument short enough to go on the back of a car in the form of a bumper sticker. It says, people over profits. That's the argument. Now, to unpack that and make the arguments against that and why profits are good and that profits actually serve people, um, man, that takes man that takes 3 or 4 paragraphs at least to explain the market structure, the profit and loss system, and that it's through profits that things get cheaper. Because if everybody's doing everything for cost, then there's no pressure to drive costs downward. Um, because if you can drive your costs down, your profits increase. So you drive your costs down, your profits increase, and your competitor sees what you're doing. So he does the same thing, but instead of increasing his profits, he cuts his costs to the consumer. He's going to pass that profit along to you. Um, but anyway, uh, the other thing that I thought was super interesting is when I stood up to argue against the prohibition of farmers using human manure. Um, there were some odd looks. There were some funny looks. I think some people just didn't believe me at all. And I think that some people were just shocked. And I also, like, going home after that, I, um, I think I also, oh shit, I'm trying to see what time it was. I'm sorry. I think I also had a revelation about why people don't like attorneys. Um, it's because an attorney is arguing for something that they don't even believe in. Uh, you're defending a guy that you know is guilty, um, that you know he's dead to rights, and he should be punished, and he should probably maybe hang or something. But you got this defense attorney that's willing to defend him. Um, I guess for money is maybe part of why they don't like him. But you know, I'm not getting paid. Um, my thing is like we just need to argue this out and know before we jump in and we do it. Um, you get at the truth by arguing, and it's not so much even that the other side is wrong. It's that the other side is strengthened through the argument. If they're right and I argue against them, then uh, they're going to get better in their arguments. They're going to bring better arguments forward because I've smacked down the weaker arguments, And uh, I can't think of the lady's name. Um, I guess it might be for the better, but she put out an article, and I just sent her a private message and everything. It's like, hey, your article is lacking, and it's it might be a little bit deceptive because if you eat produce off of a farm, you can be absolutely certain that human manure wasn't used on it. And but she's using that and saying, hey, your produce could be contaminated with human manure. Um, I that that seems like a uh, unclean argument. I've talked about this before. Is fighting clean in a physical contest? If you fight dirty, um, you can win. That's that can happen. But here on the intellectual side, where we're talking about ideas, um, fighting dirty is going to lead to defeat in the long run, even if you're right, because you lose credibility. Um, so so yeah, I just encouraged her not to do that. She said, "Well, I don't think it's deceptive at all." And I wasn't. Don't get me wrong. I'm not accusing the lady of like being deceptive. That is lying. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that someone could read it and misunderstand. Because people, there's these agricultural terms that um, people misuse and they conflate with other terms. Uh, you know, I got one, slaughter and butcher. Those are different things. Those are different processes, different parts of the processing of a cattle or of a beef, of a cow. Uh, I worked at a small butcher shop for just a little while when I was trying to buy the place, and you slaughtered it, and then 2 weeks later you would butcher it. And the old man, he would, I don't know, it's kind of his pet peeve. He also called the animals in the pen, he would call them beefs. uh, and so he didn't talk about cows or steers. They were beefs to him. um, so but anyway, I feel like I get off on a tangent there. um, the the last thing, and I'll try and wrap this up, is that the the discord or the disconnect of in the room of people looking at me like, why would you argue something that you're not on board with? Um, well, like I said, it's to get at the truth of it. It's to get at the truth of it, to throw the argument out there, to test it. If there's something that I believe, I want to test it. I want to challenge it. I want to throw everything I got at it. Um, I want to stress test it. And then after I've done all that, then I know I can hang my hat on it and I know it's good. Um, and that's a good chunk of what I'm doing with arguing to not make humanure illegal, just to think through the issue. And we've got to. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's not for everybody. Maybe everybody's not like that. But it would benefit us if we were. The way it would benefit us is that we would develop better arguments for what we do believe in, and we would be able to better anticipate the arguments thrown against us. Um, and if you watch cable news, it's been a long time since I've watched cable news, but you know, just here and there, I'll watch it, and these guys suck. Uh, it goes back to that episode I was talking about. Part of the problem that a lot of these people have just, oh, I don't know. It's like that one guy, Ben Shapiro. He goes out and he goes to a college campus, and he gets into these arguments with purple-haired lesbian freshmen, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm big stuff because I knocked out 20 uh, leftists that don't know shit," and it's just so disingenuous. You haven't dealt with the hard questions, um, and not all of it's hard, and that's the thing too. When you're talking about transgender in sports, I don't think there are any good arguments. Um, but you get into economic theory or um, schools or things like that. Uh, abortion, abortion is abortion isn't as easy of a debate as a lot of people on the right want it to be. Um, it's a hard debate. Um, if you find somebody that's knowledgeable, your person on the you're just run of the mill person on the street. Um, they suck at it. They don't know. They don't know shit. They're just like the freshmen in college, you know. But if you find somebody that's actually decent, um, but I think that it, uh, not against Terry or anything, but we got up there first, me and BL, and then the side to argue for it came up. And I think it should have gone differently. I think that the people for it should have argued, made their case for it, and then we should have gone. But uh, there was there's an argument made on the other side. There's an argument made on the other side that to not trust the government, that this stuff is dangerous, so we need to make it illegal by using the state. And man, I just can't abide it. Um, no, I guess my argument was taken to heart that we should know more about it. But he's saying like, well, we shouldn't wait for the government to find out. And I didn't say that, by the way. I'm not saying that the state should test it. Um, the the thing I just, and I'm skeptical by nature, but I can't quite understand how it's dangerous. Uh, Putting on a field that's going to grow a crop of hay, and it's going to feed a mama cow, and she's going to calve in the spring, and how, or in the fall, let's say, how is that hay going to affect the mama that affects the calf that's raised and is then a year and a half later butchered and uh, ends up in the grocery store for people? I can't wrap my mind around that. What I can say though is that the market should be free. Um, Dusty, I talked with Dusty Beavers just a little bit about it, and he was talking about that we should it should be labeled, which I don't even know how you would label that, but theoretically, um, to say that an animal was fed grain that was not produced on a field that had used human manure, or that it was, well, that'd be fine. I don't know. All I can say is that if it's that big of a concern to you, and again, this isn't like about me making money, because here's the thing: I don't know anybody that uses human manure in Comanche County. I don't think it's a thing around here. I think it sounds like it's a thing around Oklahoma City and possibly around Tulsa, but we don't have that sort of thing going on down here that I'm in any way aware of. Um, and so what I'd say to him is like, hey, go and find a farmer that doesn't use human manure and buy your beef from them. And I'm one of those guys. So, um, yeah. Anyway, so, and then one more thing is the emotion. The emotion got kind of high in there. Interesting tie-in to that. A buddy of mine was telling me just how pissed off he was uh, because he had some stuff listed on Marketplace, and um, he kept getting low offers, low ball offers. It's like when you list something for 3,000 and you get offered 1,000, and that apparently that upsets some people, and it's never upset me. What I always kind of took it to mean is that um, I like your car, your truck, your cow, your horse, whatever it is. I like it, and I would buy it if I have the money, but I don't have the money, um, and so It's I don't know. That doesn't insult me. They're just letting me know they don't have the money, but that they like it. Why that would why you would find that insulting? I don't know. Um, why we find things insulting when somebody disagrees with us? Because I saw that some too. Um, when I talked, when other people talked, um, not in myself, but I could I think I could see other people getting offended by what whoever it was that was talking said, and we shouldn't. We do, but I argue that we shouldn't be offended. That we should um, be able to get our emotions in check. Like, they're important. We talk about a lot of important issues that have consequence, from wars to economic policy that means all the difference in the world to people's livelihoods. You talk about all the mask nonsense and the shutdowns during COVID. The issues matter. They're important issues, but the emotion the emotion doesn't carry any weight. It doesn't matter. And so, you know, man, I don't know. I figured that out a long time ago, that emotion doesn't mean a lot, whether it's a football field or a chessboard. Um, a lot of times it's to your detriment. You get emotional and you make mistakes. Um, do your job. Do what you've got to do. Think through the arguments. It's a logical task. Um, Emotion doesn't play a part in it. And I'll leave you with this: that probably one of my favorite books, and for sure my favorite book that is not written by an economist or or a Christian, is Jonathan Haidt, uh, The Righteous Mind. And of course, there's tons in there that I disagree with. I disagree with a lot of premises. He talks about evolution, all this kind of stuff. Uh, but there's a lot of good things in there, and um, he talks about the elephant and the rider. Um, that a man sitting on the back of an elephant with reins, presumably, um, isn't actually controlling the elephant. That the elephant is going where it wants, and that the rider represents logic, and that the elephant represents emotion. And so, kind of the thrust of the book is he's arguing that we have a visceral reaction to this or that we make a choice, we make a decision, we come to a conclusion really based on emotion. And then we use our intellect, we use the rider to explain why we did it. So the elephant decides to go to the left, and the rider says, I'm going to go over there. But it's not really, he's not really the one making the call. It's really the emotion that's making the call. Um, and it's been years since I read the book, and I did read it a couple times though, because it's that good. Um, but if I remember right, Hyatt kind of argues that just is the way it is, and I strongly disagree. I think that your logic, your reasoning, your mental capacity is like a muscle, that it can be developed, and that you can um, shrink, as it were, that elephant down to a horse. And yes, a man can control a horse. Um, and I think the analogy works great as a horse. The difference is that the rider isn't a man; it's a small child. Because I remember when I was a kid, and I was like 3 years old, uh, because I learned how to ride before I could walk. Um, but I remember I was 3. I wanted the horse to go one way, and the horse just wasn't really cooperating. So I decided I'm going to go this way because that was the way the horse was going. And I relate to that. Um, I think that's it. I think it's instead of a man on an elephant, it's a small child on a horse. And what we should do is we should grow up. That's that's my take on it. But Jonathan Hyatt, he doesn't think that we can. Is kind of what my takeaway from his book concerning his perception of the matter. Um, that's about it. I don't know what the status of my website is right now, but the website is the Alliance. I think it's the Alliance.live. Um, and I should have put this at the beginning. I'm so sorry. Um, but we have changed. We're not doing a show anymore at Sundays at 4. Um, it's kind of tough after church and different things. Sunday at 4, not so good. We're going to Monday at noon. I can't promise you I'll be back on here tomorrow at noon. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. Um, but certainly next Monday, I'll be on here Monday at noon. And thanks for being with me. We're going to have this posted in the group for now. There will be changes coming to the group, but for now, it's in the group. Comment, like the video, click the link. I don't know how to do it. The point is if I read comments, I do read messages. So if you got something to say, if you think I'm wrong, let me know. I might even have you come on if you want to. So anyway, but for now, we'll catch you later. Thank you.